Once upon a time in the beautiful town of Aya, there lived a young nanny woman named Carol. Carol used to be a teacher, guiding the little ones in their early years. But one day, like a bird losing its wings, she lost her job. With no money and a child of her own to care for, Carol's thoughts turned to survival. She decided to open a daycare where she could watch over the children while their parents worked. "Bring your babies to me," Carol would say, her voice sweet like honey. "I will care for them as my own." The parents, trusting her good name, began to bring their little ones. But behind that gentle smile, Carol hid a heart as dark as a moonless night. She was no ordinary nanny. Carol saw these children not as blessings but as tools for something sinister. Each morning, as the town bustled with life, Carol would take the babies into her home. But instead of only feeding and playing with them, she did the unthinkable. She rented out babies to strangers she didn't even know, sending them away for reasons only she understood. Worse still, she gathered the tiny pampered items of these innocent ones, selling them to rich men. These men, seeking wealth and power, used the pampered items in dark rituals. They believed the items held the children's glory, their luck, their blessings, and their grace. They took these blessings and made them their own, leaving the children weak and vulnerable. And so, Carol's daycare grew popular, but no one knew the wickedness that brewed inside. She smiled, she laughed, but her actions were like a snake hiding in tall grass, silent and deadly. The parents trusted her, but they didn't know that every time they left their child with Carol, they were handing over more than just a baby. They were giving away their child's destiny. But if you think that was all, wait until you hear what happened later, as babies started disappearing from Carol's daycare and how she herself began using the babies for more sinister things that mouths could not tell. You see, Carol's dark actions would leave you shocked and likely question your nanny after watching this story. In her early life, Carol's story began in a home where kindness flowed like a river. Her parents were known far and wide in Aya as good Christians, always helping others and spreading joy. "Carol, you must always do what is right," her mother would say, and Carol did. She was like a golden child, shining with obedience and grace. But life, like a mischievous wind, doesn't always stay calm. When Carol was in her final year of secondary school, something happened that turned her world upside down. She fell in love with her teacher, Mr. Sola, a man whose words were sweet like ripe mangoes. "Carol, you are special," he would whisper, and Carol believed him. Their secret love grew until one day, Carol found out she was carrying his child. When she told Mr. Sola, his face changed, as if a storm had swept over it. "That's not my baby," he said coldly, stepping back as if she were a stranger. "You're on your own." Carol's heart was pierced by his words, leaving her alone with the shame and the baby she hadn't planned for. Her parents, though kind, couldn't bear the gossip of the town. "You have brought disgrace to this house," her father said, his voice heavy with sorrow. Feeling like a bird with broken wings, Carol decided to leave. She packed her few belongings and went to live with her uncle Sardan. Sardan's house was nothing like her home. It was cold and quiet, and Carol felt the weight of her new reality. She was no longer the golden child. Life had taken a turn, and she was about to walk a path filled with shadows. Carol's life at Sardan's house was tough, but she was determined to survive. With a baby to care for, she couldn't sit idle. She found a job as a teacher in the town's nursery school. Every morning, she would carry her little child on her back and walk to the school, ready to teach and earn a living. But the money she made was like drops of water in a desert, never enough. The baby needed food, clothes, and medicine. Carol often went to bed hungry, giving her child the little she had. This can't go on, she thought, her mind restless like the wind at night. Then one day, as she sat in the classroom, an idea sparked in her mind. She noticed how many parents struggled to juggle work and caring for their young ones. "What if I start a daycare?" Carol whispered to herself. If you've made it this far, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel to continue enjoying fascinating content like this. Your support is very important to us. I could watch over their children when they're at work and make some extra money, she thought. Carol shared her idea with Sardan, who agreed to let her use part of his house. Carol wasted no time. She spread the word around town, telling parents about her new daycare. "Bring your babies to me," she said with a warm smile. "I'll take care of them like they're my own." The parents, remembering Carol's good family name, trusted her. They saw her as a responsible young woman who had faced tough times but still held on to her values. Slowly, one by one, they began to bring their little ones. At first, she had just 3 babies. She bathed them, fed them, and played with them. Her home was filled with laughter and the soft cries of children. Word spread quickly, and soon Carol's daycare became a success overnight, as it was the most popular in town. Out of nowhere, within just a few weeks, parents lined up to register their babies, and Carol's business grew faster than she had ever imagined. But little did they know, behind her kind eyes and sweet smile, Carol was hiding a secret, a dark plan that would change everything. As Carol's daycare grew, so did her authority. She wasn't just running a daycare, she was creating her own little kingdom. And like every ruler, Carol had rules, strict ones. "Your child's hygiene is my priority," she would say with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She insisted on washing every baby's clothes herself. "Bring them dirty, and I'll return them clean," she told the parents. They were grateful, thinking Carol was going the extra mile. But that wasn't all. Carol had another rule, one that made some parents raise their eyebrows. "When your baby's hair grows too long, I'll be the one to cut it," she declared. Some parents hesitated. "But why, Carol?" they would ask. "It's for hygiene," she replied firmly, her voice like a stone that couldn't be moved. "If you're not okay with it, you can take your child elsewhere." Most parents, trusting her completely, didn't question further. After all, Carol had been nothing but caring and reliable. Who would doubt a woman with such a good heart? However, there were a few who dared to challenge her. One father, whose child's hair was neatly braided, said, "We don't want the haircut." Carol's face hardened. "Then take your baby and don't bring them back," she said coldly. The parents, not wanting to lose their spot in the popular daycare, quickly fell in line. They believed Carol was only looking out for their children's well-being. But behind those strict rules lay a dark secret. Carol wasn't cutting hair and washing clothes for hygiene. She had other, more sinister plans for those tiny strands of hair and pieces of fabric. The parents, blind with trust, handed their children over each day, unaware that Carol's rules were the first step in a much darker journey. Life at Carol's daycare went on smoothly, or so it seemed. The children laughed, played, and slept peacefully under Carol's watchful eyes. Parents picked up their little ones each evening, grateful for her care. But as the saying goes, a snake may hide in the grass, but its hiss cannot stay silent forever. One day, a mother named Mama Tenny noticed something strange. As she undressed her child after daycare, she realized the baby's underwear was missing. "Maybe I forgot to pack it," she thought to herself and let it slide. But the next day, the same thing happened, and again the day after that. Mama Tenny grew worried. "This can't be a coincidence," she muttered, her brows furrowed like storm clouds. The following evening, she stormed into Carol's home. "Carol," she began, her voice sharp, "my child's underwear has gone missing 3 times now. What's going on?" Carol, calm as ever, smiled and said, "Ah, Mama Tenny, it must have gotten mixed up with the other children's clothes during laundry. Don't worry, I'll check." She disappeared into the back room and returned empty-handed. "I didn't find it," Carol said, her tone apologetic. "But don't worry, I'll give you money to buy new ones." She handed Mama Tenny some cash, her smile as sweet as honey dripping from a comb. Mama Tenny, though still uneasy, took the money and left, thinking Carol's kindness was genuine. Little did she know, the missing underwear was no accident. Each piece had been carefully taken for rituals that Carol performed in the dead of night. Carol watched Mama Tenny leave, her eyes cold. "Foolish woman," she murmured under her breath. "You have no idea what your child's grace is doing for me." And so the parents continued to trust Carol while the dark secrets of her daycare grew thicker than the shadows at dusk, from missing underwear to missing diapers and even missing babies later on. Carol's dark deeds continued, and no one in the town dared question her. But little did she know, just like the sun that comes out after dawn, her secrets were about to get exposed by someone she wasn't expecting. The sun shone brightly over Aya that afternoon, casting its golden rays on the rooftops and beautiful streets. Birds sang, and the air was warm. It seemed like any other day. But fate had its own plans. I hope you enjoyed this amazing trip. Subscribe and don't miss our next video. See you next time.